Welcome back to this special edition of Hannity. The world is on fire, and so is Joe Biden's birthday cake with 81 candles. Apparently, as it turns out, 81 candles creates quite a flame. Almost nothing is going right for Joe Biden or the country that he serves. Tonight, according to the Pentagon, U.S. soldiers have been attacked at least 66 times in the last few weeks. This includes a major strike against U.S. forces at an air base in Iraq. Take a look at this.
And since I know you'll ask, U.S. forces have been attacked approximately 66 times since October 17th, 32 separate times in Iraq, and 34 separate times in Syria. U.S. personnel have sustained approximately 62 injuries, but this does not include any injuries from last night's attack, as they are still being evaluated.
In response, the U.S. has launched a few different airstrikes in the region, including one against an Iranian Revolutionary Guard facility in Iraq. But so far, these countermeasures have to deter attacks. The world is at war. American soldiers abroad are at risk. The economy is a disaster, and the 81-year-old president is barely able to form a coherent thought. Biden is now down almost every poll to every possible Republican hopeful, including Donald Trump. But Joe doesn't seem to have a care in the world. He's headed to Nantucket for a luxurious and relaxing Thanksgiving with his family and friends. Joining us now with a reaction, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, the host of Outkick's Tomi Lahren is Fearless, Tomi Lahren, and Fox News contributor Joe Concha. You know, I'm going to start with you, Mike Huckabee. You know, we've had, now they say, 66 times since October 17th that we've been attacked by the proxies in Iran, from Iran, and yet we are barely fighting back. Why do you think that is when so many of our soldiers have been injured with injuries that are very serious, TBI, traumatic brain injuries, which can be lifelong?
Well, Judge, you got to remember, this is an administration that has given a lot of cash awards to the Iranians. We've blessed them, not just with the $6 billion of unfrozen money, but we've turned their oil spigots back on. That's $80 billion they've been able to get from that. So we're obviously not that worried about what they do. We're making it possible for them to gain nuclear capacity. And I just believe with all my heart that if Donald Trump were still president, and I hope he is again, I don't think we'll have this kind of situation because the Iranians won't take these chances. Instead, Joe's sitting there with his birthday cake. That thing's flaming up so much, my gosh, I think it increased global temperatures by 2 degrees nationally. It looks like a forest fire. I'm expecting Smokey Bear to rush in there and put it out and say, only you can prevent fires like this, Joe.
Yeah. You know, I got to tell you, Tommy, I think that birthday cake with 81 candles on it, I mean, as opposed to getting 8 and 2 candles, I think it's a metaphor for America that we're in flames right now, whether it's the economy, crime, the border, what's going on in the Middle East. What say you?
Yeah, it really looks like a dumpster fire, and that is the perfect symbol for Joe Biden's presidency. But, you know, it's one thing to be off with your family for Thanksgiving. Most presidents do that. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is that, according to a lot of research by the RNC, he spent about 40% of his presidency on vacation. Now, White House sources will say, hey, listen, Joe is working while he's on vacation. Well, he's not even working when he's in the Oval Office. I don't really buy the fact that the man that can't figure out which is the exit or when to leave or when to enter, he can't call in reporters without a cheat sheet. I highly doubt he's working while he's on vacation on the beach or in Nantucket or wherever he wants to go. This president is entirely asleep at the wheel, which means somebody is running this country into the ground. And I didn't vote for Joe Biden, Judge, but I certainly didn't vote for whoever is running our government right now. And me and millions of other Americans would sure like to know who that person is. You know,
Joe Concha, the amazing part of all this is the Democrat Party, they talk about, oh, we're for choice and freedom and all this stuff. 71% of the Democrats think Joe's too old to do the job, and yet they're insisting that he be the guy to run. He's not engaging in any kind of debates. It's Joe Biden, when America clearly, I mean, we're tired of the stumbling and the bumbling. What say you?
I say, Judge, if there was a plan B, which I think was supposed to be Kamala Harris, and now she's all the way back to plan Z, if there was somebody viable to put forward, then that would be one thing, but they just don't seem to have too many options. But regarding this Nantucket vacation here for 6 days, one would think that somebody who is nicknamed Scranton Joe would go back to his hometown in Pennsylvania. But every Thanksgiving, Mr. Biden always seems to have friends with homes so big that they have their very own zip code that you could probably see from outer space. And this just shows you, Judge, and this is a problem for the Democratic brand in general. They are no longer the party for the working man or woman, but they're the party for elites, for hedge fund billionaires like the home that Mr. Biden is staying in. The richest 1% of the richest 1%. I mean, we're certainly a long way from Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street, that's for sure. And as usual, Biden looks profoundly tone deaf to be staying at a Nantucket estate valued at $34 million, all while so many families will be struggling to put food on the table this Thanksgiving. And in fact, the average cost of a Thanksgiving meal this year is the second highest ever on record. It's also 25% higher than it was in 2019 when Donald Trump was in office. And this is why there's several reasons why Donald Trump, in poll after poll, as you just showed, beating Joe Biden not only nationally, but in those important swing states, Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Nevada. And this is why many Democrats, like David Axelrod, are publicly saying, get out, Joe. You simply cannot win. The question is, who do you put in? Mariano Rivera is not waiting in the bullpen. That's certainly for sure.
All right, Mike Huckabee, I'll go back to you. You know, but Joe Biden will tell you, and Karine Jean-Pierre actually, will tell you that Bidenomics is great. But I can't help but agree with Joe and what you said earlier. If Donald Trump were the president right now, we wouldn't be in this mess.
Well, I don't think we would. I find it interesting that Karine Jean-Pierre would say such things about how great Bidenomics is. I wonder if there's one American family that will gather around the table and when they say their prayer of Thanksgiving will say, thank you, God, for Bidenomics. Thank you that our groceries and gasoline cost more. Thank you we can't afford a house or a car. Yes, God, thank you for Bidenomics. It makes us all feel what most of the rest of the world has to feel, living in poverty. We used to live in real prosperity, but no longer thanks to Bidenomics.
Yeah, and you know, Tommy, I mean, in the end, what you've got is a party that is pushing Joe on us. You know, Donald Trump, and there are several who are in the presidential primary, but Donald Trump, it seems, the more that time goes on, it's clear to everyone that he's the guy that we've got to have in there to fight the fight for America with all of these attacks on Air Force, on our military guys in Iraq and Syria. I mean, they're not afraid to hit us.
If only it were that easy as us wanting Donald Trump to be in office, and if only the polls gave us the full picture. You know, Judge, I don't want to be the Grinch this early before Christmas, but I will say this. The reason the Democrats they're scrambling, but they're not in full panic mode, and that's because they know that they have the electioneering ground game down. They've got early voting, they got mass mail-in ballots. They are ready to go, so they can hide Joe in the basement. That's how confident they are. So I'd love to sit here and be cocky, but we really can't afford to do that.
Yeah, last time it was the basement campaign. This time they call it the bubble campaign. All right, Mike Huckabee, Tomi Lahren, Joe Concha, thanks so much for...
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.